Feels like the NFL gets crazier and crazier every year I've been a fan of it. I mean, I remember years back now when Jimmy Graham got traded. That was like one of the craziest things I felt like it happened up to that point. And now that is like, it would be such a minor move compared to what we have now. Jalen Ramsey is a Dolphin. Darren Waller is a Giant. Stephon Gilmore has been traded to the Cowboys. So in this video, we're going to be going over some of the big signings and trades, talking about them a little bit, giving you my point of view and perspective. And I'm sure, as is the trend with any opinion, not all these are going to age well, because some of these contracts might look good, might not end up panning out. That happens a lot in free agency. And some of these guys that maybe don't look good could play up to that high potential. So let's go over some of these trades and signings and why they might be good or bad for some teams. The first one we'll talk about is Jalen Ramsey, who is now officially a Miami Dolphin as the new league year has officially started. And it was a weird trade, at least on paper, right? The Dolphins have traded for Jalen Ramsey. In exchange, they are giving the Rams a third-round pick and Hunter Long, who was a third-round pick a couple years ago. And it's bizarre, but it makes a little bit more sense when you actually think about the tough position the Rams were put into. It seems like Ramsey was only going to want to play for the Dolphins, even though he definitely wasn't going to retire. But they pretty much were forced to trade him to Miami, so they didn't have a ton of leverage. The Rams are going into a rebuild. They're looking for money. They're looking for any type of return they can get. So on paper, the Dolphins are getting an incredible player. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey, I would say, took a minor step back last year. Still was good, but just not the top of the NFL. But based off his resume, he's a really, really good player. The best corner in the league for a few seasons. And last year, maybe wasn't quite to that level. And who knows if he's going to be to that level again. But on a more competitive team, you expect that he's going to play a little bit better. He's still pretty young. And for the Dolphins with his contract, you're locked in for 2023 and 2024 with the near, well, I'd say $31.5 million in dead cap if you were to cut him. So he's on the team for 29 and 30, which is still good. That's still young enough to be effective. And maybe eventually he could even move back to safety. You could cut him in 2025 for no penalty, basically at all, under $3 million, and then he's an unrestricted free agent in 2026. But you're basically getting, I would say, maybe the tail end of the prime of Jalen Ramsey. He could still be very, very good here. The Dolphins are trying to be extremely competitive in what is a very competitive AFC East. They could definitely be a playoff team, need Tua to stay healthy, and I think they could be very, very good. Ramsey's just a great addition. We'll see what the Rams end up doing with that third-round pick. Remember, this is a team without a lot of draft picks from that Matthew Stafford trade, which I would say it was worth it for them. They ended up winning a Super Bowl, but they're getting back Hunter Long. He has one catch in 2 years of playing, but he was a pretty hyped-up tight end prospect coming out of BC in 2021. He was a good player. Maybe with more of an opportunity to actually play in LA, he's going to be very, very good for them. That's obviously the hope. Still have Tyler Higbee. We'll see if he ends up making the team, or maybe he's a late cut or something like that. But Hunter Long could end up being a starting caliber tight end. Again, he was a pretty good prospect just in the Miami offense. Not even Mike Gesicki got targets. So we'll see if Hunter Long can do a little bit more with a bigger opportunity. Now, I'll probably end up doing a video talking about every team's free agency, and then maybe another one talking about every team's offseason or every team's draft, as I usually do. I'll definitely be coming out with a draft video. But for the Giants, I think I'm going to knock out Darren Waller and Bobby Okereke in the same deal, just because it was, two big moves for the Giants, and it could change even more as they are rumored to be going after Darius Slay. But we'll have to see if that ends up coming to fruition. He was cut by the Eagles, but Darren Waller is a huge acquisition for the Giants. Yes, this is someone that has been plagued by injuries the past couple of seasons. Giants traded the number 100 overall pick in order to get Darren Waller, which they acquired from the Kadarius Toney trade with the Chiefs. I'm a big fan of it. When you look at Darren Waller's numbers over the past couple seasons, it tells you basically what I just did, is that he was plagued by injuries, and also transitioning into the Josh McDaniels offense from the John Gruden offense was a fall from grace for Darren Waller, even, injuries aside. He just wasn't nearly as productive. You talk about, 70 plus yards per game receiving down to 60, and then this season he was injured, but down to 43. It's not great, and he's getting beyond his prime maybe, but for a tight end, 31, 32, you can still be incredibly productive. Obviously, we're going to compare him now to the best tight end in the league, or just about, in Travis Kelce, who's been incredibly productive. But for Waller, there's no reason to believe that he's not going to be productive into his 30s, given his athleticism for the position. It's just about staying healthy with him. For the Giants, you pretty much get no risk, and here's why. Because of the Raiders' contract, they would be the ones paying his bonus, and the cap hit is the only value associated for the Giants here. So they're going to take on this cap hit, 12, 13, and then as much as $15 million in 2026 if Waller actually makes it to the Giants. But right now, they could cut him for zero dead cap. Zero. After this season. They're not going to cut him after they traded for him, obviously. It would be a little over $8 million right now. But there's no downside to picking up Waller. Like, you already didn't want Kadarius Toney. He didn't seem like he wanted to be here. You got the number 100 overall pick back. Like, that's cool. But turning that into Darren Waller, who has the potential to be an easy top 5 tight end in the league, makes a ton of sense for the Giants. I'm really excited to see how he's going to fit into the Brian Daboll offense. The Giants very clearly do not have a number 1 wide receiver. Well, just like the Chiefs offense, if you have a good enough tight end, you don't need a number 1 wide receiver. Play Darren Waller. This is someone that can line up in the slot or out wide, as we saw him get used a lot with the Raiders. He could still be an incredibly effective player for the Giants. And again, there's no downside to doing this. Yes, you got to pay him, but the moment it doesn't make sense to keep him on the roster, you cut him and there's no penalty. And as excited as I am about Darren Waller being a Giant, which sounds crazy to say as a Giants fan, it doesn't feel real in a way, even though it has the potential to not work out at all. It's just that's a big time player. So is Bobby Okereke. Great Indianapolis Colts linebacker, continued to get better. Super athletic player. And when you look at the contract, and based off of some of the other linebacker contracts, Bobby Okereke, we don't know the exact breakdown of the contract at this moment, but it's 4 years, $40 million. That's an annual average salary AAV of $10 million, which is extremely reasonable for what could end up being one of the best off-ball linebackers in the league. He's a great athlete with sideline-to-sideline range. He's got great instincts as well, and is able to be a very solid player in coverage, which you cannot say about a lot of linebackers. This is a very different player from a Blake Martinez or Alec Ogletree when he was with the Giants. Yes, he's a great athlete, but this is someone who's actually got a knack for coverage as well, which is super important. And yes, the Giants do play an attacking 3-4. You do kind of need a thumper in there as well. I'm hoping maybe Micah McFadden can develop, Darian Beavers, but Okereke is a huge addition to this linebacking core, which has been terrible for years. The last great linebacker the Giants had, and I say great as, playing up to a really high level, was John Beeson for about 10 games in 2013, which is going back a while. I know there are a lot of Giants fans who love Blake Martinez for whatever reason. He had an okay season with the Giants 2 years ago, but he couldn't cover a baby if he was a blanket. I don't know what else to say. And then the Cowboys went out and got Stephon Gilmore, and this guy can still play at a very high level. This probably becomes one of the best cornerback duos in the league in Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore. You have the lockdown corner in Stephon Gilmore, which is a huge get for them, and then you have the ball-hawking, over-aggressive corner in Trayvon Diggs. That actually did improve in coverage last year, but still has tremendous ball skills, obviously. So this is a really great combo. I think they're going to work well with each other. And Stephon Gilmore can definitely still play. Of corners that played at least 80% of the maximum snaps, you can see Tyson Campbell here with 1275. Stephon Gilmore allowed the 9th fewest yards in the league, and it's a very small amount for over 1,000 snaps, 585, allowed just 2 touchdowns. This is still a really good player that stayed healthy, that played a ton. Very good get for the Cowboys. I still think Stephon Gilmore is one of the better corners in the league. You traded, a 5th round pick to get him? This is a no-brainer. Number 176 overall. The Colts are in the process of trying to free up a little bit of money so they don't have to pay Gilmore in 2023. The Cowboys are taking him on for just a year. That's why it was so cheap to acquire him, or a part of it. And the cap hit is only about 10 mil for Dallas, so this really isn't too bad either. Yes, he is going to go into his age 33 season, but this is a rental. If you're the Cowboys, you are all in trying to win a Super Bowl in 2023. Stephon Gilmore helps you do that. We'll jump over the Falcons quickly. I love this trade. The Patriots traded Jonnu Smith to the Falcons for a 7th round pick. And the awesome thing about Jonnu Smith is, if you remember, before he got paid by the Patriots a big contract, he was with the Tennessee Titans, being an ultra-productive H-back. Had 450 yards and 8 touchdowns in 2020. And this is not like a pure, true tight end, which is not what you need him to be if you were the Falcons. Play that hybrid H-back role. Be like your fullback / inline tight end. He's a good blocker. He's a great option. And Jonnu Smith, again, was great with Tennessee 2019, 2020 under Arthur Smith, the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Smith is still only going into his age 28 season. The Falcons gave up nothing to get him. And yeah, you can see why the Patriots would be gung-ho to get rid of this contract. Didn't want to pay him, 11 mil in 2023 and 12 mil in 2024. Falcons, obviously, when you acquire a player who's already been paid by the other team, don't have to have any type of dead cap, as they're not paying him any type of signing bonus. But Jonnu Smith here, I think, is only going to be a great add for the Falcons offense. Help them do what they want to do, which is get the football out quickly and run the ball. Smith is going to be really, really helpful in both of those facets. Kyle Pitts can still be your hybrid, move him around tight end and get him involved, hopefully. But Jonnu Smith is just a great addition. Run some more 12 personnel in Atlanta. I just think it's a great move. And while we're talking about Atlanta, we might as well talk about Jesse Bates, the former Bengals safety that is now being paid heavily by the Atlanta Falcons, the 4th highest safety contract of all time. And that's just the way the contracts are going, right? It's 4 years, $64 million. It's an AAV of just a little over 16 mil. I don't mind it. It's very rare nowadays that you can find a true single high coverage safety like Jesse Bates is. He's only going to his age 26 season, so this is a young player that you are getting probably for his career prime. You're paying a big price tag in order to do so. It's not a steal by any means, but it's just a great addition to the team. The Falcons are someone who did have a decent amount of cap space, and this always harbors back to the conversation of, would you rather have money that could be used to get a free agent or pay somebody that you have on your team, which Falcons, let's be honest, don't have a lot, or would you rather have the talented player? And for me, yeah, you don't want to overpay, but I would rather field a talented team and have no cap space rather than have a ton of cap space that I could just picture in my head. Oh, wow, we could use this money for so many different things, or we could have so much money. Get the player, get more talented, be more competitive. The NFC South is wide open. It is not a good division. Bucks, bad. Saints, bad. Panthers, bad. Now, these teams could get better, and the offseason and the draft is how some of these teams will be doing that, obviously. But for the Falcons, why not you? Why not you? You are not great, but you're close to being the best team in the NFC South. That's where every team is, right? So getting Jesse Bates for his probable prime, yeah, it's not cheap to do so, but it's a great player to add. Now that we have a lot of the trades out of the way, I'll briefly touch on some of the quarterbacks. Derek Carr's getting 4 years, $150 million from the New Orleans Saints. It is a massive contract, obviously, with an AAV close to 38 mil, 100 million guaranteed at signing. This is the price for a competent quarterback, and Derek Carr is better than half the quarterbacks in the league. I think that's probably fair. Now, is he an MVP type player? We've seen him be too inconsistent to say that clearly. But given the right weapons, given the right offense, Derek Carr could be a very, very solid option at quarterback. And for the next 4 years, I really don't mind it for New Orleans. It's better than what you had. Better than Jameis Winston. Better than Taysom Hill if you had to play him at quarterback. Better than Trevor Siemian. Better than Andy Dalton, which I know that the bar's low, but I really don't mind it for the Saints. You got to pay money if you want to have a quarterback. But then the Raiders gave Jimmy Garoppolo 3 years, $72.7 .75 mil with 45 million guaranteed over the deal. Now, they do have a potential out after the first year. That's something that you have to keep in mind. This is not actually a 3-year deal. It's a fake 3-year deal because the out goes from 33.7 million down to 18.7. Now, you probably are going to keep him rostered in 2024 as well, so I wouldn't really worry about this number too much. But this is the true out. After 2024, the dead cap is below $4 billion. So if Jimmy Garoppolo is not working out, which, let's be honest, I know there are some delusional fans out there that think Jimmy Garoppolo is unbelievable and he's the reason for success. Jimmy G was simply, I would say, the conductor of the train in a way. Or maybe he's the guy in the back of the train that shovels the coal in to make it run. I don't know. There's some type of analogy here I'm working towards that I can't find. Listen, the train was moving already. Jimmy G was just a passenger. Maybe that's what I want to say. He was the guy that punched the tickets. Jimmy G was not the reason for success, but he was the guy that helped keep it all together. He's not absolutely terrible, but he still isn't traditionally, as you would say, good. Jimmy G is fine. He's not going to be a difference maker for the Raiders more than likely. You know what you're getting. It's about bang on average. That's what Jimmy G is. Now, you're only paying him as a quarterback, which get very expensive. You're only paying him 24 mil per year, which nowadays really isn't that much, which sounds insane. But the Raiders are at least getting somebody to play the position. It is a lot of money, but it's also fake money. It's really more like 2 years. 50 mil rather than 3 years, 72. So I really don't mind this for the Raiders. The cap hit gets as much as 28 mil, which again, really isn't so bad. Two ones I want to talk about the most are cheap deals on potential contenders. Firstly, Sam Darnold is only going into his age 26 season. He feels like he's 28 at this point. He feels like he's Baker's age. They were the same draft class, to be fair. But Sam Darnold is not even 26 yet. And started to look a little bit better in Carolina. I mean, all I'm saying, I'm not saying he's great. I'm just saying started to look a little bit better. Again, bar was low, but going into the San Francisco offense under Kyle Shanahan, I don't want to say anything crazy because I was a big Sam Darnold hater, if you will, and I was right. It turned out, thankfully for me. Sam Darnold under Kyle Shanahan, I don't know. With injuries, we saw the 49ers' luck. I think you could do worse than Sam Darnold for $4.5 million. Baker Mayfield to Tampa. I called them a potential contender just because they could win the NFC South again. Baker had his moments in LA. He's still wildly inconsistent. But if he can get back to the Baker that we saw in the Browns, for every other year in there, Baker could be good enough for the Bucs. He's not good, but he could be good enough. He is their starter right now, in my opinion. I don't think you're starting Kyle Trask over Baker Mayfield. Baker's just got to learn the playbook, which he wasn't able to do in LA as he was flown there and had to start in a second for him. This could be a good situation for both sides here, Baker and the Bucs. I don't hate it. Rashad Penny is headed to the Eagles. It is a very, very cheap deal. I think it's only 1 year, low risk, high reward. In fact, it was one of the cheapest running back contracts. It was the cheapest as far as we know right now, but Myles Gaskin, I don't think is making as much as Rashad Penny. But Boston Scott, who re-signed in Philadelphia, the freaking giant killer. Mike Boone, although it is 1.5 AAV, it's still 2 years over 3 mil. Rashad Penny is not making as much as Travis Homer per year, as much as Mike Boone, Boston Scott, Matt Breida. He's not making as much as Justice Hill, Raheem Mostert. Start to get into some of the better backs with Jeff Wilson. And Mostert's good too, but why isn't Rashad Penny getting paid more? Well, it's simple. Rashad Penny cannot stay healthy. Cannot do it. Over the past 3 years, Rashad Penny has started just 11 games, has only appeared in 18, which is basically a full season now. However, in that stretch has averaged over 6 yards per carry, 70 plus yards a game. Rashad Penny is very, very good. He just cannot stay on the field. Behind the Eagles' offensive line, Rashad Penny could be absolutely unbelievable. Now, will he stay healthy? Huge question mark. If he does, look out. Now, I like the Dolphins keeping Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert. I think Samaje Perine is a sneaky signing for Denver. It's 2 years, 7.5 overall. You have a big injury to Javonte Williams. Samaje Perine probably will end up being the lead back. Mike Boone's more of a receiving back, third down guy, which is still a skill set of Perine's. But you got to start somebody out there. This is a good running back by committee addition for when Javonte Williams comes back. It'll probably go Javonte Williams RB1. You'll have Mike Boone as your third down back, and then Samaje Perine will be kind of the, I don't want to say change of pace necessarily, but get fresh legs in there. Samaje Perine's a good player. And then the big running back contract that got handed out was David Montgomery, headed from the Chicago Bears to division rival, if you can even call them that. Haven't been super competitive in ever, although they were pretty good last year. A lot better than the Bears. I think probably double or tripled their wins. But David Montgomery is headed to the Lions, 3 years, 18 mil overall. It's a good deal for the Lions, man. It is a good deal. You are only guaranteeing $11 million over these 3 years. It is only a 3-year contract. So you're getting David Montgomery for age 26, 27, 28 seasons. That is probably either the prime to tail end of his prime. And when healthy, David Montgomery is a really good player. And this is someone who's not really been, I would say, used to his full potential. And that's not saying, oh, you know what, the scheme wasn't right for David Montgomery. The offensive line wasn't right. The Bears' offensive line was terrible. And given David Montgomery's skill set, which is being a big, powerful back with great contact balance, he has an ability to catch the ball pretty well out of the backfield. And for the Lions, with a much better offensive line than the Bears have to offer, I think David Montgomery could be highly productive. He's been pretty healthy for most of his career, played in all 16 games, or in 16 games last season. Of course, there's 17 now, so maybe missed one in there, of course. But 4 yards a carry doesn't look particularly impressive, but it was not a great offensive line. Montgomery's a good player. I think behind the Detroit O-line, playing for the Lions, he's going to be a better player. When you talk about potential fantasy implications, I think David Montgomery's going to be a sneaky good pickup. And he's going to be somebody like your Jamal Williams that gets a bunch of touchdowns because of how the Lions like to operate. So, yeah, you take a guy who was 70, 65 yards a game and only had 50 last year. You also had Khalil Herbert, who was the best change of pace backer right up there in the league. David Montgomery in Detroit, I think, is going to be highly productive and very much worth this contract. Yeah, injuries happen, things happen, but I'm betting on this for the Lions. I like it. Now, I kind of skipped over quarterback without mentioning this one, Aaron Rodgers. He will be a Jets quarterback. The question just becomes, what is the compensation for Aaron Rodgers? I think it'll end up being the number 13 overall pick. That's what I think. Now, it might not be. The Jets don't want to give that pick up, and the Packers don't want to give up Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a Packer next season, so something's got to happen. So either the Jets are going to pony up and say, all right, you know what, fine. We committed to paying Allen Lazard 4 years, 44 mil, 11 million per year. We've committed to Aaron Rodgers. We'll just bite the bullet and give you number 13 overall. Now, they might not end up doing that. They might say, hey, Packers, you don't have any leverage. This is not going to be your quarterback next year. If you want something for Aaron Rodgers, you're going to take what we want to give you, which is probably like a second and maybe like a pick swap or something like that. I think it'd be a really interesting wrinkle if Elijah Moore was somehow involved. Hasn't really been as successful as he should have been with the Jets. But if you get Aaron Rodgers, you don't want to give up Elijah Moore. You don't want to because he's so talented, so good. So it's understandable why the Jets would not want to move him. But if that's what it takes, maybe a second or third round pick in Elijah Moore, I don't know. The value is going to be a little bit tough to determine for Aaron Rodgers because you don't know if he's going to play for a year, don't know if he's going to play for 2 years. I think a lot of that's going to be factored into the negotiation. So there's just a lot of unknowns, but Aaron Rodgers more than likely will end up playing quarterback for the Jets. Hell, the Packers might be forced into releasing him. Aaron Rodgers, I doubt that's going to happen. I don't know. It's a weird situation. We're going to continue to follow it. But based on his contract, the Packers don't have to move him. They don't have to until like September 1st. So while I do think something happens before the draft, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting situation to monitor. That's all I'll say. But he's getting all his buddies paid. Alan Lazard to the Jets, and the report came out that the Jets were going to do that anyway. Yeah, okay, you were going to pay Alan Lazard $11 million per year over 4. I don't believe you. I don't believe you would have done that. I absolutely do not buy any of that crap that the Jets or reporters are spewing. I cannot believe it. And that's what I'll say about that. Lazard, he plays receiver. Juju Smith-Schuster is headed to the Patriots. 3 years, 33. And what's interesting is this is the exact same contract, at least in terms of length and dollars, that Jakobi Meyers got. Although Jakobi Meyers put out a tweet responding to the Juju Smith-Schuster trade saying cold world LOL. So what that tells me is Jakobi Meyers, who ended up signing the same contract with the Raiders, was not getting that same type of offer from the Patriots. The Patriots did not want Jakobi Meyers. Instead, they wanted Juju Smith-Schuster. And I don't know, these guys are kind of on the same level to me. They're the same age. What separates Juju from Jakobi Meyers is his run blocking ability and the fact that Juju is going to do the dirty work, which is extremely valuable to an offense. As corny as Juju is, he's a tough, gritty, hard-nosed player. He's a fun player to watch. And Jakobi Meyers might be a better receiver than Juju is, but Juju might be a little bit more valuable to an offense. I know that is going to sound weird, but it's just that the added small details that you don't see in the yards or the touchdowns that, can really help make an offense run. So I don't mind it from the Patriots' perspective. I think about $11 million is fair for Juju, and I think that's true of Jakobi Meyers as well. The Raiders just keep making so many moves where you're not sure if they're in or out. You traded Darren Waller. I can get behind that. Injuries, you can at least get a pick back. You can ditch the contract. And then you pay Jakobi Meyers, get rid of Derek Carr, you pay Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know. The Raiders have had an interesting offseason. We'll see how that continues to run. Now, I thought it'd be a really slow tight end cycle, and to be honest, it has been a little bit. We haven't seen Dalton Schultz go, or Robert Tonyan, Mike Gesicki, Austin Hooper still out there. But we did see Hayden Hurst get paid. Carolina gave him 3 years, $21.7 million, good for $7.25 million per year. Carolina needed help at tight end. You do have Tommy Tremble, but Hayden Hurst is a big pickup for them. But it's a lot of money for Hayden Hurst, especially in a very good tight end class. I'm not sure that you have to draft a tight end if you're Carolina. I still think they could, though. I just did an entire segment talking about the tight ends and Josh Oliver and Irv Smith. That's not the point of this video. That might be another one where maybe we go a little bit more in depth. Just wanted to talk about some of the big signings. Tremaine Edmonds is certainly one. 4 years, $72 million, $50 million guaranteed. It is a monster contract for an off-ball linebacker. They also paid Nate Davis and TJ Edwards, of course, at linebacker as well. Nate Davis is an upgrade on the offensive line. I think he's going to be their starter at right guard. I think their offensive line, you can plug in Nate Davis at right guard. I think their starter at left guard is going to be Cody Whitehair. I think left tackle is going to be Braxton Jones. And I think right tackle, they're going to try Tevin Jenkins there again. Center is a question mark. Maybe go out and get a tackle as well. Maybe Skoronski goes and plays guard. Whitehair moves back to center. The Bears have flexibility with Nate Davis. I think they just said, hey, age, value, he's one of the best offensive linemen on the market. Let's go get him. We need help there on the offensive line. Just get a good offensive lineman. And they're not really super worried about positions right now, which is a little weird, but also sometimes you just start your best 5. And it's 3 years, 30 mil, so it's 10 mil per year. I really don't think the value is too much. Now, I got to talk about Jawan Taylor. He's very young, but this is a contract, man. 4 years, 80 mil with 60 mil guaranteed. Now, Jawan Taylor's played right tackle. He was a right tackle at Florida. He's been a right tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And is he going to be the right tackle for the Chiefs? Do they want him to try and play left tackle? You gave him big time money. I don't know what the Chiefs are planning on doing with this, so I really can't speak on it too much other than we'll just have to wait and see. But it is a big contract for Jawan Taylor. He's getting better, so you're betting on him here. But you had Lucas Niang. He was good when healthy a couple years ago. I don't really know what this is. And I know you needed a tackle. I know Orlando Brown Jr. is coming back or not coming back. I don't really understand his deal every season. He's like, I want to get paid like a left tackle. And the league's like, you're not that good at that. And he's like, I don't care. Give me the top money. And he's a free agent right now. So I don't really know what's going on with him. I don't know where he's going to sign. I don't know who's going to give him that money. I don't know who wants to play him at left tackle for left tackle, top tier left tackle money. We'll just have to see. You still have some big free agents available too. Like Orlando Brown Jr. at right tackle I can get behind. Coming back later, before this video goes live, Orlando Brown Jr. just signed a 4-year, over $64 million deal, including the largest ever signing bonus for an offensive lineman at $31 million. Kind of surprised me. I know $31 million is a lot, but kind of surprising to see Orlando Brown Jr. get the biggest signing bonus ever. Now, my big question about Orlando Brown Jr., as I mentioned briefly, is he going to play left tackle? Is he a right tackle? He's getting paid left tackle money, but can he actually play left tackle for the Bengals? It's a big get for them if he can slot in at right tackle, but I know he wants to be a left tackle because he wants that left tackle money, but he did get paid. Does he still stick at left tackle? I got some questions there, but overall, this could be a pretty big get for the Bengals. A lot of money, but could be worth it. Miles Sanders also signed a deal to go to the Carolina Panthers, and it's a good move for them, I think. The actual details of the contract make this pretty much a 2-year deal, but overall, I believe it is 4 years, 20... Where's the money here? 4 years, $25 million. I honestly thought it was like 26 or 24. But yeah, only $13 million guaranteed, so it really isn't too bad, and it is officially, I guess, $25 million. The money's not so bad. It's just guaranteeing that he is your running back in 2023 and 2024. You know, he's got that Deuce Staley connection, who is now, of course, in Carolina. So this could be a really big move for Miles Sanders. I expect him to catch the football a little bit more as well, which is going to work well if you're a fantasy guy. PPR, he's going to get more targets, more catches, more yards, and of course, be that main featured back in Carolina. So really don't mind this for them either. Just probably means Deontay Foreman isn't coming back. And I guess I'll finish up with Jamal Williams. Talked about him earlier in this video when we were talking about David Montgomery. He's headed to the Saints. There's a little bit of uncertainty right now with, of course, main running back Alvin Kamara. Not only is Jamal Williams a good insurance policy, he's just a great teammate, locker room guy. Everyone rants and raves. You see him on Hard Knocks, obviously, and was a touchdown machine for the Lions. Hard-nosed running, short yardage back. Jamal Williams, I mean, you're going to find a role for him, surely. C.J. Gardner-Johnson is available. Odell, of course. Bobby Wagner, even if he's not the same player they used to be. I know he won All-Pro last year. I don't know about that. But Bobby Wagner is still good going downhill, even if he isn't the same cover player. Still could be valuable to a defense. I think a team like the Giants could use a player like Bobby Wagner next to Bobby Okereke. It's a good fit. Thumper plus athletic zone cover guy. And Wagner's still a good athlete, just not quite the player he used to be. Darius Slay is going to be big for a team. Unique Ngakwe's out there. Wouldn't mind that if you're an edge-needy team. Dalton Schultz is still a very good player. And the big one kind of remains. Where is Lamar Jackson going to go? Javon Hargrave was a big get for the 49ers. They take a strength, which is their defense. They get even better. Yeah, you did lose some guys on the back end. Emmanuel Mosley headed to the Lions. The Lions also got Cam Sutton from the Steelers. Lions are getting better in the back end. Not a ton of commitment there. Like, I think Emmanuel Mosley is only a 1-year deal, but you are getting better. And it sucked for the 49ers to lose Mosley and lose Jimmy Ward. And your D-line, though, is not going to struggle at all. Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, and Javon Kinlaw. Like, that is a tremendous group of defensive linemen. Love it for the Niners. James Bradbury goes back to the Eagles. I think it was about 3 years, $30 million. Tremaine Edmonds' contract, by the way, is basically only a 2-year deal as well. Still paying him big time, but the dead cap after 2024 is essentially nothing. And then looking at the rest of the big deals here, the Broncos were super active. Paid Ben Powers a ton. I like it. Ben Powers is really good. Zach Allen got paid a ton. I'm not sure he's quite worth this, but he's a good player, so at least you're getting a good player in there. You lost Draymond Jones to the Seahawks, so it makes sense. Draymond Jones got paid a ton. Not the best run-defending interior defensive lineman, but is a great fit for the Seattle defense. Attacking 3-4. Get him in there at defensive end in your 3-4 and just rock out. He's a great pass rusher. Love Draymond Jones for that reason. Probably the best deal of free agency, though, is Jamel Dean. Jamel Dean, 4 years, 52 mil, only 24.5 guaranteed, and that's a 13 per year or average. So Jamel Dean, one of the best corners on the market, really, really good get. Took a discount to stay in Tampa Bay. So good on the Bucks for making that happen. The Browns' defensive line, outside of Myles Garrett, is pretty atrocious, especially on the interior. Dalvin Tomlinson helps fix that. He's a great run defender that actually has got a little bit of juice as a pass rusher as well. He's probably going to play 3-tech for them. I don't really think he's going to play nose, despite doing that at times for the Giants and Minnesota. I think he can play 3-tech. I think that's what he's going to do in Cleveland. It's what he's going to have to do. And it's a lot of money. 27.5 total guaranteed. 4 years, 57. It's a lot of money, but Dalvin Tomlinson's very good. And I think the last one I'll mention is Caleb McGarry back to the Falcons. 3 years, 34.5. Don't know the full details of this contract yet, but McGarry has taken some strides at right tackle for the Falcons, despite looking a little bit ugly out the gate. But McGarry really come into his own. One of the best right tackles available. Falcons got him back, and why not? I plugged him in for a tackle in some mock drafts that I did because I'm like, I don't know if they're going to bring McGarry back, and who do you have? And left tackle, Jake Matthews has always just been okay. Like, they could be a tackle team, but after bringing back McGarry, I think you just got to go defense. But that's pretty much going to do it. Talked about some of the big signings in here, big overall money. Didn't talk about every single move, but Denver did a lot. Chicago did a ton. Arden Key to Tennessee is a really sneaky move. It was an interesting free agency. And then Charles Omenihu, Jermaine Pratt, I love these signings too. Re-signed Jermaine Pratt. He was a good player last year. And then Charles Omenihu to KC. Oh, what a fantastic addition. Really, really good player. And hook 'em horns. Okay, I'm scrolling down here. There are a couple more I could talk about. Eric Kendricks has passed his prime. Jimmy Ward, I mentioned briefly, I think is a pretty good get for Houston. Marcus Davenport, 1 year, $13 million prove-it deal. Marcus Davenport's got high pressure rate, got to finish some more plays. Garrett Bradbury back to Minnesota, pretty cheap deal for your starting center. Alex Singleton was really good last year for Denver. He signs 3 years, 18 mil. Good get for them. Bring Alex Anzalone back for Detroit. Obinaya Okoronkwo, I think, is a really good fit for Cleveland. He's got juice off the edge. Going to be maybe, I don't want to say designated pass rusher. He could start for them. Jonathan Jones back to New England. 2 years, 19 mil. Nice big contract for him. And I think that's about it. Byron Murphy to Minnesota. We're going to have to see how that one works out. There's basically no financial commitment here to Byron Murphy. He's going to have to play a little bit better. I expect he's going to move around a bit. But this has the chance to be a big get for Minnesota. And now the video's over.